was a match made for heaven, she often would say. Together forever, even through their dying days. But now age was upon them, so they made a plan. When God calls them over, they know the spot to meet again. Pick the graves on the hillside, side a new sapling pine. They'll meet again, pretty place they.
I'm Tommy Atkins. I own the Mercantile here, and I called Randy and Travis a couple of weeks ago to try to get just some stories about Appalachia, because I know Randy's been around for most of it. And he remembers everything. Yeah. And I just made a list of some questions we wanted to ask them. The first one was I wanted to ask Randy and Travis what your first memory of Appalachia football was.
Well, of course, my dad always worked the ball games, and we'd always go down to Quonset Hut, and I was like first grade, you know. And of course, back then you didn't worry about your kids like people have to now. Dad go work a game, and I'd play. We'd used to shoot rubber bands at the girls for the first half, especially when I got in the second, third grade. You probably remember, John. We'd shoot the girls with rubber bands the first half, and then we'd play pick up and tackle the second half, you know. But that's when I first started. Of course, history goes back. My dad played football. His brother played football. And that was my first contact with the Appalachia football.
Well, my first when you asked that question, my first thought, I got very many thoughts that came through my head just now. I can remember being a young kid. We were talking about the other day with my staff. I think it was 1984 or 1985. I got to go to football camp for the first time as a kid, and my roommates were Matt Dysart and Roger Austin. That's who I got to live with at Virginia Tech football camp. I just kind of remembered that, going to football camp for the first time with the Bulldogs, and being able to be on the sideline as a ball boy through those 1980 years. Also, probably the next thing I remember as a kid, I can remember learning how to really, he talked about playing tackle, pitch up and tackle. We used to play it too up there behind the press box before games. And then we get on the pizza boxes and slide down the hill. that was definitely a fond memory of all the guys I played with. I saw Jamie Jesse today. I can remember playing football with him and his brothers when we were kids. Those are fond memories of Appalachia football.
What was it like to play for Coach Riggs? You said you were there his first year, wouldn't you?
Well, of course, Coach had, he had experience as he coached, several places. Of course, we kind of actually got him by luck, really. Sam Dixon was the head coach, and let's see, I guess Mr. Clark had been his assistant. Mr. Clark, I guess, had gone to graduate school, and Coach Riggs had worked up in the clinch field, and then I think he was going to be transferred further away from home, so he didn't want to be that far away from home. Well, Rucker Schemes had been a coach at Eastone High School, and he was a cousin of Coach Riggs's, so he was going to take the job, but as it got closer time for Rucker to commit to Appalachia, his wife was having a child, and she was she was a little bit old for childbearing, So he decided that he might be needed home, so he told Coach Riggs about taking the job. So Coach Riggs took the job. But Coach Riggs, he was really hard on us back in those days. Sprints after practice, and I know I'd been out to lower end, we run 100 yards, 100 yards. And I'd say, if I was up at the other end, I'd just quit. And then I'd get back up there and I'd think, well, maybe I can do it one more time. And I get down there and I say, I wish I had quit when I was up there. But now, of course, some of you older guys that played with Coach Riggs didn't believe in water. He didn't believe in water. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, to my knowledge, he never had a water bottle on the sidelines. In fact, somebody probably remember the Gate City game in 1967, and we got down on the 10-yard line. Randy probably remember, yeah. Got down on the 10-yard line and didn't score. They stopped in 4 times in a row. Well, for some reason, Coach Riggs went down the corner instead of going to the dressing room. And I don't know, but he did. Well, of course, me and Holman, we were coaching JVs. We just really mostly on the sideline. Well, them boys said, Coach, we ain't got nothing to drink. Me and Holman, if you remember Gate City ball field, the restroom was back behind the home stand. So me and Holman has to go over there and we pick up 4 cups apiece. You get 4 cups of water. Well, you know how you carry a cup of water, you know. Well, the time we got over down to where them boys were, down in the corner, you know, the cup's half empty. But, I mean, I really don't know why. I don't know why. But he got by with what about now he did, I think, maybe even Randy was playing. He finally did allow a water hose. You could go down. But now,
68.
Huh?
68.
He started letting
He
him
started
take it.
68.
Yeah. But now he never had no bottle of water on the sideline. I'm telling you the truth. There was no water on the sideline ever. And, but I can keep on for that. I'll come back maybe after a while. I can keep on talking. Really? Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I was going to ask what your favorite memory with Riggs was.
Oh, wow. Well, that'd be hard to say, but
Any memories?
well, I guess all of you heard about the 1971 football championship. And it rained all day Friday, and I drove up there Friday night, and I shined my lights out on that field. It looked like a lake. I'm telling you, it looked like a lake. Well, I think I lived at Big Stone then. I came up there the next morning, and well, it looked like, well, you know what it looked like. Well, we got up there in the office, and Eddie Dean, who coached against Appalachia 2 or 3 times later, you know, he was a coach, and he had practiced down at Bullock Park the day before, so they were aware of Bullock Park and, you know, the field, status of the field. And Mr. Rose was the principal then. And, well, I remember a lot of local boosters. C.F. Wright was one. He was one I can remember. And we're going to play that. We'll play at Appalachia, you know. Well, Mr. Rose, Eddie Dean got Mr. Rose in that little office, off the main office, you know. And he got Mr. Rose in there. And I asked Coach Riggs, I said, Coach, where do you want to play? He said, I want to play right down there. I said, better get in there, Coach. Eddie Dean may talk Mr. Rose moving to Powell Valley, you know. And well, of course he didn't. And of course I know most of you heard this. They bought, I think it's 100 gallons of gas at the Texaco. They put 100 gallons of gas on the field, burnt the field off. And well, in fact, somebody might remember when we played them in '89, they brought their home team out there, their old team. And they was interviewing some of them boys, you know, that had played at Appalachia. And they asked this one boy, what do you think remember about Appalachia? He said, well, we drove up, the field was on fire. But no, we'd be here all night if I started telling tales about Riggs.
What about Coach Tom Turner? You knew him as a little boy, didn't you? And then
Well,
played.
tell a lot about that too. First year I taught school, still lived at home, and Travis's grandmother, she's about like my grandmother. Mother used to stay with her when she was a kid, you know, and she's just like my grandmother, you know. And Mom went over and played cards every night. Well, Tom's in the 7th grade. And I told him, no, you ain't gonna play. You're gonna have to pass. You know, you can't play. But every night, Mom go over and play rook every night. And Tom would beg her to beg me to let. After about 2 weeks, of course, I gave in and let him play. And of course, he played. But now Tom couldn't play basketball at all in 8th grade. He couldn't shoot. Flash and Luke. I actually didn't let Flash and Luke warm up for about the first 2 weeks of practice. They couldn't make a layup. That's the truth. And Tom, he worked on just from the high post mainly. And then by the time they were in the 9th grade, they, of course, all the 3 of them were starting, and Tom would bring the ball up the floor. Really, he brought the ball up the floor. And Luke and Flash. Well, of course, I know you're aware of it. Tom and Luke scored 1,000 points. 1,000 points in 3 years. 3 years. Of course, there wasn't no 3-point shots either. But they only played varsity 3 years. They only played varsity. And except for a bad call when they were juniors, when they threw Lukey out of the ball game, we would won the state championship 2 years of basketball. Sometimes thinking that team when Tom and them was juniors might have, except for that fact that Tom and them were older, you know, they were a year older. But Scotty Henry was a heck of a ball player.
Yeah.
And Lloyd was above average. You know, he was at least average Lloyd Wells. And of course, well, I almost said his name. But anyway, this guy threw Luke out of the game for nothing. For nothing. I mean, didn't even swing a double up his hip. But anyway, well, Tom, Luke, they were all good athletes.
What about you, Travis? You grew up around, I mean, you're Tom's son. You grew up in the 80s and 90s, played in the 90s.
Yeah, talking about Coach Riggs, I can, you know, like I said, I've told this story before to some people. First time I met Coach Riggs, I was probably, I don't know, maybe 10, 11-year-old at the time. He used to come down to the field house, and I can remember sitting in the field house and listening to Coach Blair, Coach Riggs, and other people come in and tell stories about Appalachia football, talking about the 71 team with my dad playing, Luke Martingale, and Roy Talley, you know, Flash Davis, those guys through the 60s and 70s. And I've heard stories about Bill Seaboat blocking for Ed Clark. And, just listen to those stories as a kid, you know, I kind of sitting there taking all that in as a young kid, kind of say, yeah, I want to be part of that Appalachia football tradition, that history, and do something great for the school. And when I was coming through as a young kid, and then being around those guys in the 80s, Coach Austin, Coach Dicer, when they were players. I can remember the '89 team. That was one of the first times when we made the state playoff run. How exciting that was for the 5-5 in regular season, making the '89 state championship run, and being a part of that. Going to those trips to Bath County. Coach was talking about Coach Dean in Madison County, playing up there in 1989. Well, yeah, being around Coach Riggs, man, he told some stories, and he had to carry that cane with him. I remember the cane very vividly too. He'd go out there sometimes to help out with practice with offensive line drills. I've heard, you know, I've seen him carry that cane around, make sure guys don't fire off football. if they weren't coming off football real good, he took care of that for them. But, yeah, great memories with Coach Riggs, and hearing him and Coach Blair talk at the field house, and, growing up around that, man, I think that's really helped me out in coaching and becoming a head coach. And, you know, make kids appreciate it, and you appreciate what you do to help those guys out.
First off, I have to push Donnie's book. This is a really good book. Donnie Jinks, it's $18 a copy. It's Wise County football for 100 years. And it's really an interesting book. Now I have just a few little, you can get a hold of me, or I can get a hold of him. And I think he said he's maybe online too. I don't know, but it's a good book. But just 2 or 3 things I was going to say about Appalachian football, I could talk again all that. But football started in Wise County in 1923, but Appalachia didn't start until 1924. I can't remember. Some of the schools started a year ahead. But Appalachia started in 1924, and the coach had played ball at William and Murray. His name was L.E. Williams. Now you wouldn't know L.E. Williams, but some of you probably know his son, Dr. Williams, who worked for Lonesome Pine, I guess. Dr. Williams. Anyway, that's his dad. So Williams, I guess, started football. He was probably the first coach, and he coached for 4 years, and then he became principal. He became principal. Must have been about 28, and he remained principal at Appalachia until 1940. And in 1940, he and the principal at East Stone swapped jobs. Now, some of you older people remember Walter Jones at East Stone came to Appalachia, you know. But Mr. Williams, and I can't get together, after he became principal, he didn't coach football, but he continued to coach girls basketball. But I can't find a complete, I've got a bunch of old annuals down at the museum, but I can't get a complete record of them. But I did run across, some of you on Facebook, I asked the question, what Appalachia basketball player averaged 32 points a game? Well, of course, the two answers I got, what do you think I got, somebody? Shelley Clendenin and Ross Jackson. That's the answers I got. But the answer was Charm Ford Carice, and she averaged 32 points a game in 1929. Now, you youngsters wouldn't remember, but in those days, of course, girls just played half court, you know. You had 3 forwards and 3 guards, you know. So, and there was a lot of other rules. They couldn't take but 2 dribbles, and they couldn't knock the ball out of a girl's hand. My friend said that they had a girl from Norton, and she was standing on the basket and aimed for like 20 seconds, but the girls couldn't hit the ball. But Charm Ford, and again, I don't think, maybe Joyce, you remember her beauty shop? She had Unifair. She and her sister had well, you older guys, her husband ran the last stand-up beer joint in Appalachia, the Owl. Anyway, just 2 or 3 more things about football, then I'll be quiet. Of course, they won several games. Of course, they played Kingsport. I think Kingsport beat them 70-0. But they played Mountain City, Elizabeth. But I think it was 1940. Well, Joyce will know. It's 40 or 41, I guess, when your brother played. 41. In 40 and 41, they won the regional championships. Now, I can't find that they might not have won anything up to then. And then, now during the war, they played very limited schedules. Like 1 year Appalachia only played like 3 games because of transportation, you know. And a lot of guys didn't coach, had volunteer coaching. But the winners coach at Appalachia was Billy Hicks. Joyce, do you remember Billy Hicks?
I remember the name.
Yeah. Right. In 1940, he just lost 1 ball game in 2 years. He just lost 1 ball game, and he won the regional championship in 40 and 41. Now, I'd say during the war, because a lot of men joined the service, a lot of boys joined the service, you know, and they played a limited schedule because of transportation, I guess, too. Like Appalachia would play like East Stone twice and Big Stone twice, maybe play Norton, you know. And in fact, John Fletcher, who was town manager, coached in 1944. In 1945, Lawrence Fleener, who's Dr. Fleener's daddy, he helped John coach. But another coach that had a pretty good success at Appalachia was Joe Schaefer, and he came in 1947, and he won. In 1948, Appalachia was undefeated, and Coburn was undefeated, and Appalachia hadn't scored up on, and Coburn beat him 7-6, and won the championship that year. Well, the next year they played at Appalachia, and just so happened somebody had an 8mm, and I saw that game. but Appalachian 49, they won. It was just a regional. You didn't go past one game, and they beat Tazewell in 1949. Now in 1951, they went to Richland playing a regional game, but they lost that game, you know. And then of course the state championship didn't evolve the way it is. No, it's not exactly. It was a little different back then, just one champion instead of two groups. But in 1970, I guess Chilhowee won in 1970, but we had a fullback, the pony, named Roy Talley, and he had broken his ankle, or we would have won the championship in 1972. Of course, Talley was back next year. Of course, then 71 started the championship years, yeah. But
Wins we had that lesson.
oh yeah. He's looking at my notes. In 880 games at Appalachia, now we're talking about Appalachia through 2011. 11 wasn't it? Yeah. Just bring up. In 880 games, they had 511 wins. Yeah, 511 wins. Yeah. But some of you older people remember we had a coach named Gothard Bays at one time, and I saw his picture one time, and I was asking Coach Fitz, I said, "Coach, who is that coach there? He looks so familiar." He said, "It's Gothard Bays." And Gothard coached there in 1941, and then of course he went in the Navy the next year. But he of course later on went and coached at Wise and was a real famous, pretty important referee. Travis?
Would you win 3 state championships, Travis?
Yeah, the 4 years I was in high school, gosh, we had good football teams. 1994, 1996, 1997. 1994 was my freshman year. I mean, you had guys like Chris May, Larry Huff, Todd Jesse, Jamie Jesse, Travis Clark. Ricky Sturgill was a freshman with us. Tony and Michael Myers, Jason Hyder. I mean, I can name them all. Doug Varner played a little fullback for us in '94. You know, he was a sophomore that year. Sam Sellers. Sammy was a wide receiver, excellent wide receiver, defensive back. You know, you can name a whole list of guys on that '94 team. We were 12-2. Went to Middlesex, played in the state championship game, set the state record at the time to score total points. Scored 72 total points in the state championship game at Middlesex High School when they used to play at the old high schools instead of playing at a neutral site like they do now. That was a unique experience playing out at Middlesex on the East Coast with the beach weather, the wind blowing, and 10 degrees. It was interesting. But 1994 was a great year for us. 1995, my sophomore year, we lost won the regional championship, beat Norton for the regionals. Then we lost to Bath County. Senior loaded Bath County team that year. I think they won the state title that year in '95. I think '96, my junior year, we come back. A lot of that same core group of guys that I played with were together from '95. We had a bunch of sophomores starting that year, so we come back our junior year. You know, had a great year. Travis Clark, I think he rushed for close to 3,000 yards that year as a junior, scored 30-some touchdowns. Sam Sellers had close to 1,000 yards receiving. Jamie Jesse, I think he led us in tackles with 100-some tackles that year. And it was just a great year. You know, won the state title. We played Surrey County. Had to move the game to Bullen Park. The state championship game was played at Bullen Park, and we got on those guys pretty quick. It was 28-0 or 35-0 at halftime, and we ended up winning the state title game 42-14, I believe. And then my senior year, we had to go to Surrey County. We had a rematch with them. Had to go to Surrey and play the Surrey. It was a little bit more prepared, a little bit closer game. It was 24-21. Travis Clark. I think Travis Clark changed that game for us. He took the I think I'm not mistaken, maybe the second half kickoff. He took the second half kickoff for about 99-yard touchdown to get us going, and because we were down 21-8 at halftime. down 21-8 at halftime at Surrey County. And they had a kid that went to the University of Virginia, played off that team, had a kid go to James Madison, a very athletic team. And Travis Clark took the second half kickoff 90-some yards for a touchdown to get us going. And then our defense turned it on. We shut them down in the second half and won the game 24-21. Got all three of our two-point conversions to win the state title. So very fortunate. The 4 years I played, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I know some of you guys are in here. How many games did we win, Jamie, in 4 years? 50. I think we won 55 games or something like that in 4 years. Maybe 55 wins and 8 losses in 4 years. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it was up there. We to be able to play in 3 state championship games in 4 years, man, that was awesome. It was, especially coming off in 1992, the 92 team, which we were ball boys. Me and Jamie were ball boys in that team. And you had guys, Chris Clark was a senior, had Adam Kennedy, Chris May was on that team, Larry Huff they were all sophomores on that team. Greg Stidham, Lumpy Russell, Brandon Mullins, Harold Bowman, Gary Harris, Lee Smith. Man, those guys kind of set the standard for us. We were there keeping up with them. Watching the 92 team win the state championship, beat Strasburg. I think at that time it was the first game. Correct me if I'm wrong, Coach. Was it the first game that was played on Sunday? They had to move the game to Sunday because of the snowstorm, and the state of Virginia never played a game on Sunday until that year, 1992. We were playing at Strasburg and played at Bullet Park. From our, as a ball boy, it was a really good game. I think went out 28-20 or 26-20, real close game. But watching the 92 team set the standard for us to win the state, to compete, win state championships from 1994 to 1997, to be able to win 3 out of 4. It goes to a lot of credit to our coaches. Some of the guys are still here that was on the staff. Those guys coaching us, the players.
That's one of the ribbons, like the spirit ribbon from 94 right there. It's got a score on it. What was it like in Appalachia when y'all won them many games?
What was it like?
Yeah.
It was pretty special. You go to Rick's Stadium on a Friday night, and it's packed house, people standing on the hillside through the 90s. And at the time we would come out of the field house and go across the catwalk to go down the steps. I don't think there was any other better feeling going down those steps on a Friday night. I mean, it was gives you chill bumps thinking about it, being a part of that, growing up, especially for me, growing up with that. I used to go down those steps in 1983, 84, and then going down as a player is a special feeling. So to be able to do that, and to do it with the guys I grew up playing ball with, go from playing pitch up and tackle behind the press box to walking down the steps and competing for state championships.
I can remember being little and rode, and I'd just see your dad drive by. We'd all be out there playing football, and it felt like Elvis drove by or something. We'd see him go by and blow the horn. We'd all get so excited just to see him drive by.
Yep, I can remember going out with him and taking footballs. When I first started coaching, we would go riding the co-camps, and he'd have a bag of footballs to take to each camp. So kids were playing in the churchyard or taking the basketball and make sure everybody had a football or basketball to play with.
I think he had like a white van or something he would drive in. He would drive up there and blow it on.
Yep.
Well, from 65 to 65, I guess, until 70, you never thought about losing to anybody. Just going to win, except you had to beat Gate City. We didn't always do that every year. Well, in fact, in 1970, Gate City had gone AA. They won the AA state championship that year. And if Tally, I really don't think that we could have beat Gate City that year if Tally hadn't broke his leg. But we would have played them a heck of a lot. They beat us 54-6. But if Tally had played, I really don't think they were really good that year. Well, they would, as I said, it's still late. But I've got to tell one more. I could tell a bunch of funny stories about Riggs, but I was thinking, I won't call the guy's name, but Randy will probably figure it out. But this boy's in the 8th grade, and he, big boy, and potentially, he knew he was going to be a good football player. But he said, Jackie Ray, now Jackie Ray was a good teacher. Jackie Ray was pretty tough too, you know. He said, Coach, he ain't going to pass. He ain't going to pass. He said, God Almighty, Jackie, if I can't depend on you, who can I depend on? Figured out, you ready who it was? Yeah, you know who it was. He first started in 9th grade.
Yeah.
But he was a good football player, he wasn't.
Hi, can I say something?
Go ahead, yeah.
I know when Jim Riggs quit coaching and his dad took over, I remember what Jim Riggs said in the paper. He said, sometime you don't have to go off to get a good coach. I remember what you said in the paper one time. You said that your ambition was to coach, go to college, and come back and coach for Appalachia Bulldogs. You said in the paper that was your ambition.
I know, I thought our biggest rival was Pine Valley, because I graduated at Pine Valley. All my family's Pine Valley, and I married a Bulldog. And when we would beat them, my family wouldn't speak to me for a week.
Well, Riggs' biggest rival was Wise. Riggs, he wanted to beat Wise. He wanted to beat Big Stone. But like he told, I guess, grandfather Eddie, but he said, boys, now that's don't beat Pine Valley too bad tonight. I mean, Cecil's going to play golf tomorrow. No, like I say, I could go on all night.
Thank y'all for doing this.
Okay, I enjoyed it.
That was great.